A newborn's first cries break the village's eerie silence. Outside, a father stands motionless, another son, another warrior to mold. Welcome to samurai life, where childhood is optional, discipline is absolute, and fun is something that happens to other people. But let's be real. Being a samurai isn't all swords and honor. It's a lifetime of discipline, endless rituals, and the constant threat of disappointing ancestors you've never met. Forget about ninja assassins or epic duels. Your real enemy? Trying not to fall asleep during meditation while your legs go numb. By the time you take your first steps, you're already behind schedule. Other kids get to stumble around, giggling and chasing butterflies. You're learning how to kneel properly. No fidgeting, no wobbling, and absolutely no complaining. Fall over too many times and your father just sighs. You'll do better tomorrow. You have to. Then comes the first real milestone, your ceremonial haircut. Childhood locks fall to the floor, and with them, any illusion of freedom. Now you've got a stiff topknot perched on your head, making you feel like a tiny, awkward statue. You glance in the mirror. Congratulations, you've just been promoted to looking ridiculous. But there's no time to dwell on it. You've got bigger problems, like trying to impress a father who measures love in discipline. Later that day in a private session, while other kids are playing with wooden toys, you're gripping a wooden sword that feels heavier than your entire existence. You swing, miss, and nearly take yourself out in the process. Your father watches, arms crossed. You were supposed to be born a warrior. Right now, you're just a very determined disaster. The dojo looms ahead, a place whispered about in the village with equal parts fear and respect. You step inside, expecting to be handed a sword, maybe even a battle cry. Instead, you're told to sit. And sit. And sit some more. Your first lesson in the art of war? Endurance. Not in battle, but in keeping your legs folded beneath you without collapsing. Hours pass. The older students sit like statues. You shift, you fidget, and eventually, your foot falls asleep. You try to shake it off. Big mistake. A sharp rap from a bamboo stick reminds you that movement is weakness. You quickly learn comfort isn't part of the curriculum. Then comes the bokken, your first wooden sword. It feels sturdy, powerful, a symbol of your future as a warrior. Until you drop it, the entire dojo stops. Silence. Then your master's voice, calm but final. 100 squats. You can barely lift the sword, and now you have to survive a punishment workout? This isn't training. This is suffering disguised as tradition. And unlike gym class, there are no water breaks, no participation trophies, just exhaustion and bruised pride. Then winter arrives. The dojo floor, already unforgiving, turns into a slab of ice. You're barefoot, because of course shoes are for the weak. Every step sends a jolt of cold through your body. You try to focus, to meditate through the pain, but your toes have officially staged a rebellion. Someone sneezes, another gets caught shivering. The master eyes the room. More training, resilience, they call it. You call it frostbite in the making. By the time you reach adulthood, you'd think things would get easier. They don't. In fact, they get a lot worse. Your first real sword arrives with a weight that has nothing to do with steel. This isn't just a weapon. It's your family's honor, your ancestors' pride, your entire existence wrapped in a blade that must remain spotless at all times. And so, a single speck of rust? Dishonor. A dull edge? Disgrace. And then there's the maintenance. No one tells you that sword care is basically a second job. The first time you clean it, you grip it a little too tightly, slice, blood drips onto the steel. Your master nods approvingly. A blood bond with your blade. Right. More like a lifelong reminder to handle sharp objects with caution. Then comes mounted archery. Because apparently, standing still and shooting arrows wasn't hard enough. Your first attempt? Absolute disaster. Imagine trying to thread a needle while riding a dolphin during a storm. Your horse, sensing your terror, decides now is the perfect time to test your balance. It bucks. You panic. Your arrow flies, nowhere near the target. Your master watches, unimpressed. Patience, he says. Your horse snickers. You're pretty sure they're both laughing at you. The day of your first battle arrives, and for a brief moment, you believe all those years of suffering were worth it. You picture an elegant duel, a clash of steel, a moment where all your training comes together in a display of pure mastery. Then the fighting starts, and it's absolute chaos. Blades swing wildly, Warriors yell, dust chokes the air. There's no time for perfectly choreographed strikes, no dramatic face-offs. Just an overwhelming, frantic mess of people trying to avoid getting skewered. Your carefully practiced footwork? Useless. Your elegant stance? Trampled in the dirt. Your battle strategy? Try not to die while looking somewhat dignified. You manage one successful strike? On an enemy? No, on your own knee. Surviving the battlefield should mean you've finally made it, but no, now you have to survive something even more dangerous: clan politics. Formal gatherings are a minefield. Bow too high, you're arrogant. Bow too low, you're weak. Bow for too long, you're a fool. A simple sip of tea turns into a test of diplomacy. One wrong move and suddenly you've offended an entire family line. You quickly realize the real enemy isn't rival clans, it's etiquette. At least on the battlefield, you know who's trying to kill you. Here, everyone smiles while plotting your downfall over a perfectly poured cup of green tea. Years of battle, endless rituals, and near-death experiences have finally paid off. You're in charge now. The title of leader should feel like an honor, but it comes with a terrifying realization. You have no idea what you're doing. Your warriors look at you, expecting wisdom, strategy, maybe even a rousing speech before battle. But inside, you're just hoping to survive the next tea ceremony without sparking another political crisis. You nod solemnly, pretending to contemplate the complexities of war, when in reality, you're just wondering if anyone would notice if you slipped out early. Then comes the greatest challenge of all: training the next generation. You used to be the young, eager warrior desperate to prove yourself. Now, you're the exhausted mentor watching a new batch of recruits make the same mistakes you did. They ask for guidance, for ancient proverbs filled with deep meaning. You panic. You search for something wise to say. The bamboo that bends better? They nod seriously, scribbling it down. You can't believe they're actually buying this. You watch them struggle through the same grueling training you endured, falling on their faces, dropping their swords, shivering through winter drills. You could correct them, but honestly, some lessons are best learned the hard way. Like not swinging a katana before checking where your own foot is, leading an army, negotiating politics, and training future samurai. This is your life now. You thought battle was tough, but at least in war the consequences were clear. Here, one misstep doesn't just cost you a fight, it could cost you your entire reputation. No pressure. The years catch up with you faster than a stray arrow. Your reflexes, once sharp enough to snatch a fly out of the air, now come with complementary joint pain. Judah's transit from the gallows has pushed him into the front, a present overlooking the yard. Every morning, you wake up feeling like you just lost a battle, even though all you did was sleep. Young warriors, eager and full of energy, challenge you more often now. They're faster, stronger, and have knees that don't sound like a creaky floorboard. You watch them show off their flashy footwork, their crisp, perfect strikes. Then, with one well-timed move, you disarm them in a heartbeat. Strength fades, but experience, it wins wars. One day, you catch your reflection in your blade. Your once-back top knot now streaked with silver. You remember the boy who first picked up a wooden sword, the one who tripped over his own feet, who shivered through endless winters, who thought every problem could be solved by swinging steel. He had no idea what was coming. And now you understand what all those years of suffering were really about. It was never just about the sword. It was about knowing when not to use it. The greatest warriors aren't the ones who fight every battle. They're the ones who survive long enough to walk away from them. The battlefield is quiet now, not because the war is over, but because you no longer stand in the middle of it. You watch from the sidelines, your sword resting across your lap, its edge worn but well kept. The weight of it feels different now, lighter, not because you've grown stronger, but because you've finally learned when to set it down. You think back to the beginning, the stiff top knot, the endless squats, the nights spent questioning if you'd ever be more than just another nameless warrior in an endless cycle of training and duty. And yet, here you are. You survived, not by being the fastest or the strongest, but by outlasting the ones who thought brute force was everything. A group of young samurai train in the courtyard, their wooden swords clashing, their faces filled with the same desperate determination you once had. One of them trips over his own feet. You chuckle. Some things never change. A cocky young warrior steps forward, challenging you to a duel. His stance is perfect, his grip firm, his eyes filled with the fire of youth. You sigh, rise to your feet, and accept. Not because you have anything to prove, but because some lessons need to be taught the hard way. He lunges, fast and precise. You don't move. You let him make the mistake. One shift of your weight, one flick of your wrist, and his sword clatters to the ground. He stares at you, stunned. How? You give him a slow, knowing smile. The fastest blade doesn't always win. The truth is, being a samurai was never about the fighting. It was about surviving long enough to realize that most fights aren't worth it.